Hi, pre-calculus. Today's lesson is on the law of cosines. We learned the law of sines, and that was good for certain cases, like angle-side angle or the ambiguous case side-side angle. But there are two cases that you can only solve by using the law of cosines, or at least starting off with the law of cosines. The law of cosines is this equation we have here at the top. And if you cover up the minus 2bc cosine A, that looks familiar. A squared equals b squared plus c squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. And it works as the Pythagorean theorem if the angle that you have is 90 degrees. But if it's not, then you have to use this formula and have that additional part. So it should look familiar. And what we should notice here is that because A and B and C are going to change, is that this matches with this angle. So if you're looking for a side, you're going to be using, or you need to know the angle if that's what you're going to use here. Also notice that the letters that you have here and here match with these two. So again, like if you just know, okay, I'm going to be matching those up, that's going to help you solve this and not get lost in the renaming of things. All right, so we're just going to get right into it. There's not an ambiguous case, but there is a moment where you kind of have to recognize what you're doing. So I'm going to make sure we get to do that together. All right, so we're going to look at this first example. This is a triangle that is side, angle, side. And this is one of those triangles that you can only use the law of cosine, or you can only solve by starting off with the law of cosines. So it's important for us to have, to know this. So we're going to use triangle A, B, C. Little a is 32. Little c is 48, and angle B is 125.2. All right, now this is a great example, straightforward, easy, because this is an obtuse angle that they've given us. It's whenever we have this case of side, angle, side that we have to be careful, and we're going to do an example together after this next one, where if the angle is less than 90 degrees, then we need to check for there to potentially for it to be an obtuse angle. So I'll show you how to do that. All right, so we have this set up. We know angle B, so we can find side B. Now, since that's the side I want to find, I'm going to set this up as B squared being the one I don't know. And then I've got the other two sides squared. So you can do B squared equals C squared plus A squared minus 2C times A cosine of big B. All right, so we got 48 squared plus 32 squared minus 2 times 48 times 32 times the cosine of 125.2. All right, now you're going to put all of this in your calculator. 48 squared plus 32 squared, 3,328. And then we have 2 times 48 times 32 times the cosine of 125.2, and that is a negative number because it's obtuse, so that's what happens. So we have minus a negative, so that will be plus. So we will have plus 1770.800. So I'm going to do 3328 plus 1770.8, and that's what B squared equals. And so how do I find B? If that's B squared, I take the square root, so B equals the square root of 50 98.8. The square root of that number is approximately 71.4. So that's the length of B, 71.4. That makes sense. That's a really big angle, 125. So that side has to be the biggest side, and 71 is definitely bigger than 48 and 32. All right, now that we've done that, we've got to, since we're solving for the triangle, that means we have to find all the other missing pieces. So I can find angle C, or I could find angle A. At this point, it doesn't matter because I already know the biggest angle is 125.2. Otherwise, you would always want to find the biggest angle first, but that's going to happen in a side situation. This is side angle side. So I can find this, but I don't have to use this law of cosines formula. It's a little bit longer than the law of sines. So I'm going to use the law of sines to find angle C. So I can do sine C over 48 equals sine of 125.2 over 71.4. And that should be familiar. We just took a quiz on that. Y'all did wonderful. So sine of C equals divided by 71.4. And then I have, so that's like 0.54934. And I'm going to do C. So second sine, second answer, approximately 33.3 degrees. Okay, so then to find my third angle, I don't even have to use a law. I can just do 180 minus the two angles that they've given me. So 180 minus 125.2 minus 33.3, and I get that angle A is equal to 21.5. So there you have it. You've found all of them. Now, this was a good example of a side angle side where the angle was obtuse that they gave us. Now we're going to do one that is side, side, side. And this is where you want to try to find, so we've got R, S, and T. You're going to want to find the angle that's across from the largest side first. This is going to help us avoid a situation where we have to be really engaged and like thinking of, oh, is this possible? So always find the angle across from the largest side. So R is 3.5, S bigger at 4.7, and T the smallest at 2.8. So what angle am I going to want to find? The one across from the largest side. So that would be angle S. Now, if you remember in our formula, if I have the cosine of angle A, that's going to be paired up with this, what it's equal to on the left-hand side, that side. So that means I'm going to have 4.7 squared over here equals the other two sides, so 2.8 squared plus 3.5 squared minus 2 times 2.8 times 3.5 cosine of angle S, since I don't know that angle. All right, now you're going to do some math. And solving for cosine, we're going to have to move stuff over, but I'm going to change these numbers first to give me a little bit of an easier time with this. 2.8 squared plus 3.5 squared equals 20.09 minus 2 times 2.8 times 3.5, so minus 19.6 times the cosine of S. So if I'm wanting to get cosine S alone, I need to move all the stuff on that right-hand side away. So I'm going to first subtract once on both sides. And that's nice. That goes away, and I'm left with negative 19.6 cosine S equals 2. Now to get that alone, I've got to divide. And I have 2 divided by a negative, so that should give me a negative. 1, 0, 2, 0, 4, etc. equals cosine of s. Now to find s, I have to do the second cosine, so the inverse of that answer. And I get that s is 95.9 degrees. Now it makes sense that it is a obtuse angle because that was a negative cosine, or we took the inverse of a negative, so that will always happen. And then, let's see. We know that S is 95.7, or I'm sorry, 95.9. So then I can find any of the other angles just by using the law of sines. So I can do sine of 95.9 over 4.7 equals sine of, let's say, r over 3.5. So I'm going to multiply by 3.5, and find out what r is. So 3.5 sine 95.9 divided by 4.7 is 0.7407 equals sine of r. And then I need to second sine. So r is approximately 47.8 degrees. And then to find my final angle, angle T, I can just do 180 minus 95.9 minus 47.8. So 180 minus 95.9 minus 47.8. And that gives me 36. So angle T is approximately 36.3 degrees. And now I have found all of my angles. So I have solved this triangle. So the trick is with side, 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 find the angle across from the largest side first. Okay, now this one, it says try it, but I'm definitely going to do this one with you because it's a little bit different. Now, what case is this? This is the case of having, let's draw it out. I see the letters A, B, and C. So I'm going to draw a triangle, A, B, C, and side A is 25.4, side B is 73.8, and angle C, the one in between it, is 22.28. Now, this is the case of side, angle, side. So this is where you have to be kind of careful. The angle that they gave us is acute. That means that either the other two could also be acute or one of them would be obtuse. Now, looking at the sides, I see a 25.4 and a 73.8. Now, 73 is much larger compared to the 25. So that angle B is going to have to be very large. And that, let's see, that would be just something we got to keep in mind later on, because actually I can't solve for that right at this moment. What I can first solve for is side C, since I know angle C. So I'm going to use my formula, and I'll do C squared equals, so I can do 25.4 squared plus 73.8 squared minus 2 times 25.4 times 73.8 cosine of 22.28. So C squared equals, all right, let's put this in our calculator. 25.4 squared plus 73.8 squared. So that's 6091.6 minus 2 times 25.4 times 73.8 times the cosine of 22.28. So that is 3469.14. So 6091.6 minus that. Oh. So then C equals the square root of 2622.455. So the square root of that number is 51.2. So C is approximately 51.2. All right. So that is 51. All right, that's in the middle. So that means that angle C is going to have to be the middle, meaning I'm going to have one larger and one smaller. Just like I have a side that's larger than 51.2 and a side that's smaller than 51.2, I will also, the angles are going to be in that same relationship. So if that's the medium side, it's going to be across from the medium angle. All right, now I keep pointing that out because we got to know that in a second here. So I have this side. I can find angle B now using the law of sines. So sine of B over 73.8 equals sine of 22.28 over 51.2. So using what I just found, you multiply both sides by 73.8. So we get 73.8 times the sine of 22.28 divided by 51.2, and you get 0.54648. So sine of B etc. Second sine, second answer. So B equals 33.1. 0.1 degrees. Okay, now, does that make sense? Now, the side 73.8 that's across from it, 73.8, and this is 33.1. That's like impossible, because then this, if this is 22.28, this is going to have to be massive, but this side is the smallest. So that is a problem, and that's where we have to be careful. That's why on the side situation, you always find the largest, the angle across from the largest side. In this case, we know that that can't be B. We are going to find its supplement, so we are going to subtract it from 180, just like in the ambiguous case with the side angle one with the law of sines. So I do 180 minus 33.1, and I get 146.9. So B could actually be 146.9, and we know it has to be. So if that's what B is, then go over here, use my other color. I can do 180 minus 146.9 minus 22.28. And let's see, 180 minus that number minus 22.28 is angle A, 10.8 degrees. Now that makes sense because that is the smallest angle across from the smallest side. So 10.8 and then this one was 146.9. So that all lines up and makes sense. So this part right here you had to be careful on. Though we got that B was 33, that in the end doesn't end up making sense, and so you have to be very careful there. All right, this next one is a side, so you are definitely capable of doing that, as well as number 3, because those ones, what's key there, there's nothing odd like the one I just did. But what you have to make sure you do is that you find the angle across from the largest side. So just to set you up correctly, on this first one, you would want, if you look at these 3 sides, this is the largest, so you're going to want to find angle A first. Oh, sorry, actually that should be capital A. And on this one, number 3, 17's the largest, so again, you're going to want to find angle A first. All right, so go ahead and practice those, and we'll check our answers together when you come back to the Zoom room.